Could be 3 seconds. Could be 5 seconds. Hey, it was 2 seconds.
Technically, we're live.
Technically, we are live. What's happening, everybody?
Swearing and talking trash on everybody.
Yeah, we'll just get like a YouTube finger wag. I'll have to change the settings on the show or something. I don't know how to change the settings on the show.
Andrew Dice Clay explicit.
Yeah, there we go. I want that little warning on the front of our album. Did I remember to turn ads on this thing? I don't know. Probably. Yeah, they're on. All right, I guess we're good to go. Usually when this thing boots up, I let music play for a while, and I'm like slowly moseying my way in, but not today, man.
Do they have a setting to make the ads really bad? Like, could we just...
I feel like that's the default.
I know. Could we just like choose like, I don't know, a prescription drug ad that's just not so savory?
You don't want to just play that old NBAtickets.com ad where so-and-so, how did they get tickets to the game? I can't remember.
I thought I saw an oral history on that.
On that particular ad? What was the name of that family?
The Andersons got tickets to the game.
The Andersons got tickets to the game? How'd they get tickets to the game? They used the ticket app.
Because they didn't sit on their ass.
Yeah, they didn't wait until this middle of the second quarter to try to get
dumbfounded by their phone.
That was a great
8-year-old teach them how to use a phone. Come on.
You think the dude that was in that commercial knew that he was going to be like a cult hero after?
I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure there's an oral history on this, and they interviewed the guy.
I love it.
I'm pretty sure he said no, and I don't know if it helped. He's like, great. I'm the Andersons got tickets to the game guy.
Yeah, well, he should.
In his next audition,
he should get tickets. Whatever
in such roles as.
Yeah. It's the part I was born to play, baby. Does anybody get that Simpsons reference? I hope so. If they want to cast you as in what was it in the remake of Planet of the Apes? You're gonna play the man, and he says, "It's the part I was born to play, baby." If Blake is watching, he'll definitely remember where that happens in Simpsons. And these things are all.
When you say it like that, I'm thinking Futurama all the way.
Oh, yeah, it does sound a little bit like.
And that's definitely Phil Hartman, right?
Zap Brannigan.
That's Phil Hartman, right?
It was for Simpsons. I think he had already died before.
So somebody came in and did. It was probably like Hank Azaria who could do every voice.
This voice, the voice like this, the big voice.
Universal. If you put your hands on your hips, that's how you sound.
That's how you do it. That's how Tom Hiddleston.
Also, could be known as angry wife pose right there.
No, mine's usually an eye roll. I get eye rolls. Gee, I wonder what I could be doing to deserve eye rolls. Nothing at all. Not my fault. Well, I've promised everyone that the first 5 questions in the chat room get answered right at the front end of the show. But today's show is actually going to be kind of a mishmash of things like that. So I'm actually going to bring the music down today. This is going to be a musicless show. And I'm going to start recording here. We're just going right out of the gate, and we're going to start the actual recorded show, with questions. So here's my countdown.
My God. It's a good thing you have opposable thumbs.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's Friday. Fantasy NBA Today live edition. Why do I sound so excited? It's the triumphant return from beyond the grave. Brew, are you alive? Are you okay?
Technically, I'm alive. I don't know, though. It could just be a fever dream, a simulation, if you will.
We're all
a really crappy version of the Matrix.
Yeah, well, I don't know. This feels like about the same version of the Matrix, doesn't it?
Yep. Head down, just cranking away.
Yep.
Slaves to the machines.
Someone's siphoning your life force as we speak.
Not like this. Not like this.
Not like this. That's right. My wife loves that line from the Matrix.
I'm so glad it gained internet fame after so many years. Because when I saw that, I was like, that's special.
That's right. That's a special line.
Don't know why.
Not like this. Gonk. Dunzo. So here's what everybody misses listening to the recorded pod and not the live YouTube show. At the front end of every episode, we answer the first 5 questions in the YouTube chat right out of the gates. And so here we go. We're just going to dive in. First 5, which I know in California is a preschool initiative, but here on Fantasy NBA Today Live, it's
I need a soundboard for that joke, Dan.
I know. First 5 California. Sorry for all the players. Your apology accepted, Chris. I need to close my Discord tab because it's blooping and bleeping all over this thing. But do you have any information on Mark Williams, Jalen Williams, and Porter Jr., which there are 3 of in the NBA? I'm assuming Kevin is the one in question here because Michael played through a cold. Otto's been out for the season, and Kevin is questionable. Mark Williams sprained his thumb yesterday. Jalen Williams is also dealing with hand stuff. I think that's a wrist sprain. I personally, Brew, don't have any information on them. I think I'm just like the rest of folks, kind of crossing my fingers and hoping for the best. But do you feel like either of these any of these 3, again, assuming that's Kevin as the last one, are leaning in either direction for their next ball game?
Yeah, this is classic tea leaf reading, I think. Good news is I have been watching a fair amount of the Houston Rockets, unfortunately.
Yeah, God help you.
I know, man. It's really bad. Sorry, Houston. I love you, I think. But like Porter Jr., he tweaked what we thought, watching it was his foot probably about 4 games ago. And so not surprised at all that he's going to possibly hit the shelf here. And then what does that look like for them as they are deep in the race for Wembanyama? I think they kind of surprised me in Houston with how much resistance they've had to going full Şengün over there. And it does feel like they're going to push Porter to come, not push, that's the wrong word, but be open if he comes back and says, hey, I want to play. I think they'd be open. Whereas, the race for Wembanyama and, the ability to really give the ball to Şengün and say, hey, what can we do here? But they've pushed back on that, and they've had him out of games for defensive reasons. And that's been, just an interesting side note. So Porter, I think he's not dead in the water, where I would previously, minus that stuff going on, I would think he was dead in the water for this year. And then Mark Williams, I think they want him to play. There's a decent amount of time here, 2 games this upcoming week. They could rest him, bring him back. There was going to be a phenomena that maybe we hit on throughout this show of, the tank race. You got 3 teams at the bottom of it vying, within a win. And then you have this big, vast gap of teams that are competing for play-in spots, and maybe a team or 2 here or there in between. So those odds at 6, 7, 8, 9, they're great odds, to get the number 1 pick. Now it's been leveled out a bit. So I think you're going to see teams like Charlotte possibly reel it in. OKC, for their part, has been winning games. They're still in it. And I don't think they're going to take their foot off the gas.
I agree.
They've got, maybe they could fall into the pattern of, all right, well, let's go for the 6th seed, for the Wembanyama sweepstakes, which also I'm not a draft guy. It feels like there's some decent talent in this draft. Scoot is obviously at that level, so that's 2 players to tank for at minimum, but it does, just watching some of the college guys talk, it does feel like there's some pop in there. Don't take my word for it, go out there and look. But Jalen Williams, I think that they're going to bring him back and let him play and see what he can do at the point.
Do you think Mark Williams, as a follow-up, could get back for, I think they have a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. He tried to play through the thumb thing in the second quarter yesterday, and then they held him out in the second half. Does that make you feel like it got worse, or if it was just like, all right, it's not quite ready, we could play him in 2 days, or you think more like a week and a half?
Yeah, it's a really strange sort of circumstance there. That all says we want imaging on it. And the thing with a thumb injury is, if it was worth imaging, I am a little concerned that they might think there's some sort of tendon damage in there. And if there is tendon damage, it probably is the end of the season for him, I would think. No need to push him through that, 3-week recovery time. If it's a low grade, sprain or low grade tear, I don't think they want to push him through that. They do have Nick Richards, the talk of the town right now.
He's a pickup, right?
Yeah, to get in there and he's definitely a pickup. We could talk about him. I don't know if there's another question about him that we could segue into, but they got that backup there, and it's probably interesting enough for them to take a look and see what they have, give them the 25 plus minutes everybody's talking about. And
you're gonna like the next question, by the way. It's not about Nick Richards, but it is about someone you enjoy.
It's two people I enjoy.
That's right. Andre, who's one of our favorites here at Sports Ethos. And Andre says, how good is Mikhail? Let's go. Triple exclamation point, smiley face. Mikhail Bridges, first rounder. Well, you can kind of wipe out yesterday's game because that was a game where I feel you, Mikhail Bridges, because he was legitimately only in that game yesterday to keep his Iron Man streak alive, which is how I feel about a bunch of things I'm doing right now. Nightly quick hits, never, ever, ever missing an episode of the podcast. And sometimes it's like, you know what? I think I'm just on here to keep my Iron Man streak alive. But if you pull that out,
do it, man.
First of all, I'm, deathbed here. I'm okay.
I don't know how you do it, especially you started nibbling on it in some of your quick hits, is like with the algorithm the way that it is. That's so bad to put that quality content out there and then just look and see, like, I don't know what the numbers are, but it's not great, for anybody. I'm watching like Woj tweets, and like clicking him a day later, and the number's so low in relation to his 5 million followers. And I'm just laughing.
Yeah.
Like nobody's seeing anything anymore.
It's really weird. I don't fully understand, but you got to just sort of keep cranking away here. But the answer to your question, Andre, which I know is sort of a rhetorical one, is very. Bridges is a first rounder with Brooklyn since the trade. So let me change this question a little bit. I'm going to tweak it a little for you, Brew, because we know you love Mikhail Bridges. We all do here at Sports Ethos. He's an Ethos darling. He's a B150 darling. All of that is true. So I know your answer to the how good is he question. Let me ask you this instead. How good can he be next year? And are you even now thinking about where he might end up in drafts next year?
I hope that we get another year of this, because we've been winning on this one forever. And the question, how good he can be, he's a pure shooter. So let's everybody keep that in mind. Like pure shooters, they can get really good, really fast. The questions is handles. He's got a great feel for the kind of the straight line game. He's got a great feel for the pull up game. The question will be kind of, can he get off the dribble when there's two defenders shaded his way? That's the next step for him. He was given that opportunity in Phoenix, and he was really good in that role. And it's been about at least a quarter of the season where he's been at a first round level. So it's actually ticking back into that time with Phoenix where Devin Booker was out and he was the guy for the longest time there. So I think we've seen enough to know that he can be the guy, and with his efficiency. And I guess my only concern with him taking on workload is the erosion of defensive stats. But I don't think that that's going to be an overall net negative for him. So he's going to be great. And I mean, he gets no respect. Like 6 weeks ago, I was getting questions from people about who to take in a trade, he or Şengün, during the hot streak, and think about the value swaps that were occurring back then, and so he just has been under the radar, and it's been great for us. And I'm really excited about the location in Brooklyn. And when they talk about that Durant deal, a lot of people will say, that Mikhail is just a good player. And no, he's like a top 5 potential player. And he's currently, if I just had to throw a random number on, he's like a top 15 guy given the defense. So
yeah, the defense is amazing. Exactly. His shooting form is super weird, but damn it, it's working. Hold Trey Jones or stream his spot. Spurs to be in full tank mode. And frankly, we can extend this to the Spurs at large. who for head-to-head leaguers, they've basically been abandoning ship this week because they had 4 days off. They played a night, Friday night and Sunday, so now their schedule does sort of pivot back in a slightly better direction. Spurs have 2 games, 3 days the rest of this week. They have 4 games next week, so they have 6 games over the next 10 days, so that's pretty good for San Antonio. But it does seem like, Brew, they're resting anyone on that team that you could deem a regular in at least half of every back-to-back, and sometimes even more than that. I feel like the answer to this question is kind of different, roto versus head-to-head, but where you stand with the tanking Spurs and their better assets, which would be like Vassell, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, players of that ilk.
Yeah, you really gotta just watch that schedule, and you gotta watch the news on a daily basis. And then I think you just got to work with valuations like Trey Jones in an entire season, 29 minutes per game. He's a top 100 borderline guy. So if everybody else is gone and he's the guy that's remaining, maybe he can be a top 75 guy in that game. If everybody's back, maybe he drops actually a little bit. And for good measure, you should downgrade all these guys, as you were alluding to, Dan, because you just don't know if they're going to just do 20 minutes a game for everybody.
Right. Yeah, that's the worst kind of tank.
It really is
brutal because they use a game. If you're a games cap guy, they use a game against it. If they didn't, you're like sitting on them going, all right, here we go. Well, and then they don't play in the second half.
And when they brought in Devontae Graham, I really think that they said, we are going to give this guy 20 minutes a game no matter what. And you're also going to get 14 shots or whatever he's averaging. There's that alone takes a little chunk out of Trey Jones. So I think I'm pretty down on it, but if at least he's got a live wire. So look at the schedule. If the other guys are out, he could have a big game. So you can't ignore these guys.
Before we get to question 4, I want to remind everybody to please do like and subscribe here on YouTube. There are far more of you watching than there are thumbs ups clicked on the show. And even more so because I think like 10 or 11 of those were before we even started. So please do hit that thumbs up. If you're enjoying what we've been doing here on YouTube lately, subscribe to the page. If you're listening on the recorded side, it's youtube.com/sportsethos. We're really leaning into this thing hard because, look, there's just folks out there on YouTube that need to be exposed to us. I use the word exposed and I immediately feel dirty, but you guys knew what I meant. Question 4 for the big dog. Who would you grab for the weekend back-to-back if you're hunting steals and field goal percent? Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes, or Dang, that's in Thunder.
Oh, boy.
Yeesh. Deep. I'm guessing this is deeper than 12 teams.
I mean... You help me with the schedule here.
I believe they're all Saturday, Sunday back-to-backs here. So
okay,
all 3 of these guys are going twice Saturday, Sunday.
I mean, the one that jumps off to me is Grimes. You got a starter's role.
Yeah, that's where I'd lean also.
Yeah, and then, I mean...
Marshall, you're kind of playing for minutes. One thing that you've taught me over the years when we did the weekly lineup show together was that you're oftentimes just kind of grading out minutes in a question like this. Who do you think is going to get 45, 50 plus minutes over a 2-game stretch? And it does kind of feel like only one guy on that list you can say, yeah, that guy's going to get 45 to 50 minutes or more. You might get lightning in a bottle with the other ones, but it's typically better to just go with the guy who's going to be out there longer, right?
Yeah. And Grimes is probably due a little bit of a shooting regression as well. But yeah, no. Grimes it is. Grimy.
Fifth and final pre-show question. We can call it that because then I got a couple for you, Brew. That's where I get to decide what comes after that. Would you drop Mark Williams for Zach Collins for this upcoming week? My answer is yes, because Mark only has 2 games and he's hurt right now. But I'm curious if you agree.
Yeah, I think, your format, JC, question asker better than we do. Could you survive a week off, with Mark Williams and keep what is, a nice piece of upside there? Collins has been really good though. That said, I'm always waiting for the floor to be ripped out underneath Zach Collins. But yeah, this upcoming week, you got to do it. 10 teamers. I'm wondering if you can do a little bit better on your wire right now. But drop Mark Williams, get Zach Collins. Do it.
I want to ask you. So I'm taking control now, and chat rumors. Don't be discouraged. I'm gonna bug Brew here for about the next 15 minutes, and then he's got to go. Then we're going to pivot into a schedule analysis, and then we're going to do the rest of the questions in the chat room. So there's a lot left to do today. If you have questions, if you're watching, please make sure to throw them in the YouTube chat. But Brew, I wanted to ask you something that's maybe not strictly fantasy related, but it's there is an opportunity maybe to win some money on it, or just more of like an analysis of the psyche of basketball fans. And I threw a tweet out about it last night, and I'm fairly certain you agree, because I think I saw you tweeted something not that dissimilar, and that is the slight right now against the Sacramento Kings. And I get it. Like, people are they're gonna say, oh, this team hasn't been to the playoffs in 17 years or whatever it is. But with as good as they've been in fourth quarters, why are the Kings still getting so much big game hate when it feels like they win every close game they're in this year?
Yeah, somebody who's watched every Sacramento Kings game for the last, 12, 13 years, it's been a phenomenal change in how things get done. They are, as you're describing, it's like they've made like a handful of mistakes this year. In fact, if you told me two things going into the playoffs, I could handle all betting angles and probably run the table. And it is, number one, will the playoff refereeing allow for clutching and grabbing? And is this fourth quarter defensive rating that you're seeing out of the Kings indicative of what we might see in the playoffs, where they can clutch and they can grab and it can muck it up and you cannot expose Sabonis? That's number one. Because teams that have exposed Sabonis have just done so the way that we all expect, or I shouldn't say we, a lot of people didn't even expect that, but like, it's been a given that you can just get 3-point shots, pardon me, after, the team collapses, whatever happens, you can just score at will, which is why the Kings are ranked around 25th in net rating on defense for the year. So that's number one. Number two, if you told me, will the opposing team in the playoffs be either smart or focused enough to run, pick and roll at him every single time until he fouls out? You tell me those two things. If I know the answers to those things, I can give you the answer to who's going to win what game. They are so good on offense. The shooting surrounding De'Aaron Fox is superb. The playmaking, Malik Monk is so underrated. He's just stepped it up to such a high level. He, on a team that didn't have so many superstars or storylines, he would be making storylines himself. Herter, just so good in that role. Even some of the guys down 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th in the roster. And they also have specialists, like you saw last night, Jalen Brunson getting shut down by Davion Mitchell. So if there's a point guard, think like a Drew Holiday, I don't know that he can handle Drew at this point in time in his career, but like, they got a guy who you could put in the game who is an elite defender. So I got these things going for them that are really wild. And then you get to Fox, and I got a lot to say about Fox in another venue. Because there's a lot there. Fox went to the weight room last year and got 15 pounds heavier, and it was the precise wrong thing to do. And he even looked like he was struggling with his weight for a little bit. And then they make the trade, and he starts getting back to old Fox. You could see maybe he was 5 to 10 pounds overweight by the end of last year. Things were humming, and he came back into this year, not just with the weight down, but with a high level jump shot. And it was the thing we always questioned with him. What if this guy got a jump shot? And he has it now. So he has a killer jump shot. He can shoot the three. He can dribble with anybody in the league. And he's even trying on defense, which was the other thing he wasn't doing in previous years. And that was not just on film, but it was on film every game, 5 to 10 times per game. And you could just watch the guy getting toasted, and he's not doing that this year. So he's leading the way that you need to lead. Mike Brown is coaching the way you need to coach. Sabonis is Sabonis doing what Sabonis does, which is phenomenal on the offensive side, phenomenal on the glass. So they got this team that the gal who was tweeting, I think her name's Trista Crick or something. I haven't really followed her much, but she's very good at what she does. She was listing reasons why she's betting on the Kings. And I had the day before in our Sports Ethos offices was telling some of the guys, I was like, I'm betting on the Kings. I'm betting on them for the championship. I'm betting on them for the Western Conference. And I'm not sure they're going to hit those bets, but I can hedge those bets when we get there because they are better than every team out there other than Denver. And I can even start to pick Denver apart if I want to in terms of how good this Sacramento Kings team is, because offensively, you cannot keep up with them. Defensively, you have to be disciplined. And I haven't seen teams in the league do that. So they haven't made any, I know this is a long little rant here, but they haven't made any mistakes this year. Teams have not pressed them the way that they'll press them in the playoffs. That's my big question mark with them, but it might be a distinction without a difference. And when you can get plus 4,000 or plus 10,000, and I don't know what the numbers are today because they just got their high profile win over a very terrible Knicks team that does not know how to play basketball.
Well, once they lost Brunson, the Knicks went back to last year Knicks. Not great.
It's terrible watching that team. Like it goes Brunson, Smart, and then they're like, oh, no, we got to give the ball to Julius and just, God knows what's going to happen next.
Nothing great. At least Josh Hart was fun yesterday.
Yeah,
you know what? Yeah. Stay bad, Knicks. Stay bad for one more game. That's all I ask. Gee, I wonder who they're playing next.
I don't know. Well, and I guess that was the point about that whole thing is like, look at the wake of disaster.
2 more games, maybe.
Everywhere in the West. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
Phoenix, Kevin Durant injured during warmups. I mean, like you can't. They're the big threat, obviously.
Yeah, KD can get back, and they did say around 3 weeks, so that would be with a little bit of time left in the regular season. But
the rest of that, I mean, you just go down the standings, and it's like Clippers. They look like they're rotting from the inside.
Yeah,
Paul George looks like he can't play. It's just like down the list. There are just issues, even though Paul George pops off for 45 whenever he feels like it. But it's like he doesn't look like he can defend. Sacramento looked like the better team vastly, against those guys.
Yeah, Memphis has their stuff. Steven Adams out for the rest of the regular season. Ja's doing his thing. LeBron is out for LA. Dallas is without Luka, but I don't know. That
decided to pick up Kyrie.
Luka. Yeah. What could go wrong? Yeah, there are problems everywhere. And it's funny, you look at the West and like sometimes you look at the board and you're like, oh, well, the 8 or 9 seed looks better than the 3 or something like that. What's happening?
Memphis is, lost Steven Adams for the year. Like,
yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. I got another question for you here because I know we don't have that much time left, and this is one that people love to talk about this, and you and I never do because it's not really strictly fantasy related. But I haven't been able to get you in a while, Brew, because you've been sick. You've had the RSI stuff. What do you think about the MVP race right now? It's the talk of the town. I don't want to go down the Kendrick Perkins rabbit hole. Let's go the different direction on that one. Is it Jokic again? Because he's very much the betting favorite everywhere right now. Could anyone challenge him this year? I mean, Giannis has a case because his team has the best record in the NBA, but I don't know. It's still Jokic for me, but giving it to the same guy 3 years in a row, does that creep in? Where do you stand on MVP stuff?
I'm a purist in the sense that I want the best player who's having the best season to get it. Like in that order, that's my criteria. Who's the player you fear the most? And then how's that season looking as a tiebreaker? It's Jokic. Like he's that one stat, like games shooting under 500.
Yeah, 2.
It's like crazy.
2.
It's crazy. Like especially with how much responsibility he has.
Yeah.
And there's players who take like 10 shots who can do that, like this is just crazy. He continues to advance in all areas of the game. So I get tired of the talk about this damn award where, we got to like do mental jumping jacks to get to the end of the who's the best player conversation. Right now it's Jokic. Giannis is turning it over too much, just kind of little too sporadic for me. I like what he's doing, but it's Jokic for me.
Yeah, I think it probably is also. Let me see if I can find a question from the chat room that'll tickle you. Here's one. Why is Okongwu fading right now? Is it the coaching change? Because he was rolling prior to the coaching change.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And there's like a pecking order in basketball where when the order gets upset, in this case, coaching, and then, the stars having to reestablish themselves, Trae Young especially, then whoever the 5th, 6th, 7th guy is, they're the last ones to get back to the table and eat. And eventually he'll be back to doing good stuff. But yeah, no, it's a little feast or famine with him right now. But at least we've seen good stuff from him this year. He's done what he needed to do for us.
Who has a weirder looking jumper, Mikhail Bridges or Tyrese Halliburton?
Man, that's a good one. I think it's Mikhail
or Kevin Martin. Here's your throwback.
Oh boy. I mean, with Hallie, like I was actually imitating that one in the office the other day. So it's like any of us could do the Hallie. I don't know about Mikhail.
They both kind of shoot like way out in front. Like out,
yeah, but
leaning
like,
in
Hallie's
there.
got a push shot, like a traditional push shot.
Does anyone beat Sean Marion though? All of these weird shots. Sean Marion's always my winner.
Yeah, I don't think anybody beats
the flip.
I want to think on that one. His is good. I feel like there's somebody. This isn't the winner, but like Kyrie Irving shoots a screwball.
Yeah, that's the Joakim Noah free throw rotation.
There was the player I was looking for right there.
Noah. His slider.
And then if we get to free throws, that's always great too.
Oh yeah, free throws is a whole other animal. Because Mason Plumlee right now, for me, with the switching hands and then the hitch and the
how about old school Minute Bowl?
Oh, now you're going way the hell back. How many of our watchers were alive when Minute Bowl was playing? Would you drop Mark Williams for Nick Richards right now? I probably would if you're not in like a keeper league or something.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a playoff format, I don't see why not.
We got a vote for Sean Marion, by the way, coming from the chat room.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised we haven't talked head-to-head playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we're running out of time here. That feels like a longer discussion. Do you have a 2 to 3 minute playoffs rant that you want to get in here before I know you got to get rolling?
Yeah, no, I think if you're down to play a season and have it go down to like luck of the injury draw, I guess that's like football. Football is very like that. I guess we're more conditioned in football to be accepting of that. It's a violent game and that kind of stuff happens. But I just think basketball is such a slog. There's so many more games, so much more thought goes into it. And I'm just there's an industry discussion in this question that I think is probably interesting for a future show, where I'm just kind of curious where the industry thinks it's heading with this stuff. Like it's not cool to have your head-to-head season determined on all of this stuff. Like it's just, to me, I feel like a lot of people are turned off by it. And what does that mean for the industry? I
hate it. I mean, to me, it's just so silly that I get it. Injuries matter and they impact a team in real life or in fantasy. But whether an injury happens in December versus March, to me, shouldn't be that big of a deal. And then someone on Twitter was like, well, if you have a couple of IL slots, you should be okay if your team has depth. But here's the thing. If it's an ankle tweak, that dude's not getting the IL tag before their next ball game. You're going to have to sit on that dude for a week while they're a game time call every day for a week before you can move them into an IL slot. So either you just take zeros or you drop good players on your club. And this happens. I mean, I'm looking at a league where my playoffs actually start next week and I have to fight to get in. And I just lost Mark Williams. Darius Garland is now questionable with his. Like I've had Bojan Bogdanovic finally got the IL tag by the middle of the week. Jordan Clarkson has been out for 2 games, or he missed 3, then he played, then he was out for 2 more. So like He had the IL tag for a night. There's no place for me to put these guys. And I could drop them all, but that's all 4 of my weekly moves, basically. That to me is dumb. If that happened in December, I would just be like, okay, well, I'm going to lose this week 5-4. I don't have to abandon my entire team. It shouldn't end your season if 3 guys on your club turn an ankle and miss 2 games on the same week. I've heard this, and again, I know you got to go here. I hear these other solutions of like, could you reward the first place team going into the playoffs? I like that because that actually, to me, discourages punt builds a little bit, because punt builds typically don't get first or second seed because they're winning 5-4 every single week or 6-3. The teams that can win 8-1, 7-2, those are the ones that usually get all the way to the top. So there's a combo here. You're right. I think the industry is moving in a little bit of a different direction. But at the same time, almost everyone you talk to on Twitter is like, I still want to be able to beat my friend on X week, week 8 or something like that. I still want to get that one like laugher trash talking win. So we have to figure out a way to get around that. And I can actually see that Brew's mic is muted. So that means there's probably something going on for him. And it also, I think, means that Brew needs to go. I'm hoping we can get his mic back on before he's got to go.
Yeah, I'll say goodbye to everybody. I got a little buddy that broke into the studio here. I don't know if he'll get here fast enough to say hi. But
move quick, little man. Move quick.
I don't know. Hey, Sky, you want to say hi to the world? Yeah, come over here, kiddo.
There we go. Let's do this thing.
All right.
I've had Asher on my shows.
Hello. Say hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Yes. Yes. And today was a good day.
Yeah.
That's you and me.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
that was
amazing.
Me working the party.
This is great. Brew and Sky. Well, I guess you're both Brews, aren't you?
We are.
Brews. Two Brews.
Those Brews.
Those Brews. We'll see you next week, big dog.
Yes, we will. Good to see you guys.
That was the big dog. We'll get him back next week. Welcome, by the way. I don't know that I even welcomed everybody to the show. This, of course, is Fantasy NBA Today, a Sports Ethos presentation. I knew we only had like 35 minutes with him, so I wanted to get rolling as fast as humanly possible. I am Dan Bespris. He was Aaron Brewski. You can follow us on Twitter at Dan Bespris or at Aaron Brewski. SportsEthos.com is the website. Ethos Fantasy BK is the Sports Ethos Twitter feed. We are, of course, rolling live on YouTube as well as the bulk of all podcast channels. And thank you once again to everyone for listening all week long, especially over on the live side. And our YouTube show has been growing like a weed. It's unbelievably flattering and very cool to know that over the last 2 weeks or so, I think we've had our February 28th is the 3rd biggest YouTube just regular non-event show. March 2nd, so 8 days ago, is our biggest just regular old show on YouTube. And then yesterday was actually number 2. So, some of it I'm sure is search engine optimization. I need to get better at that type of stuff. But thank you to everybody that has adjusted their schedule so that you guys can join us for all of these shows over here on the live side. If you're listening on the recorded side, come join us. YouTube.com/sportsethos is the website. And make sure to go check out our baseball draft guide, available at sportsethos.com right now by clicking on the premium tab and choosing Get Premium. And why would you get premium? Well, because not only does the Fantasy Pass have the baseball draft guide, which will take you through the start of the baseball season, the Fantasy Pass also contains, to no one's surprise, I hope, our basketball package, which is rolling right now, including premium access to our basketball Discord and baseball Discord, where you can hang out with our pros at Sports Ethos, ask them questions, get that one-on-one service all day, every day, including also with the Fantasy Pass, you get our projections, you get our up-to-date pickups of the night article, all the other good stuff that comes with it. That, in addition to the baseball draft guide, can be acquired at the link that I am posting in the YouTube chat, or again, by going to sportsethos.com and clicking on the Get Premium button under Premium. All right, so here's what's left today. I still want to do a little schedule stream. Then we're going to pivot back into the chat room. We're going to finish up with the questions that I was not able to hit with Brewski. So here is the schedule streaming board for those watching live. There we go. I can make my face a little bit bigger. There we go. And here's what we're looking at right now. So the schedule, you guys watching can see, starts on March the 10th. And I'm now looking beyond just the weekend and even beyond Monday through to the end of next week. This reminds me, by the way, I got to put a tweet out that we're doing the schedule analysis side here. So hold on tight for just a second. Go. I'll let anybody know who wants to get in for that part of the show. They can come join. Oh, by the way, please do like and subscribe while I'm putzing around here on Twitter. All right, so here's what you're looking for right now. First of all, today is a brutally awful day to use up any roster moves. I want to say that out the outset here. We talked a bunch on yesterday's show about getting yourself basically down to one move left for the weekend. Today's not the day I would be using it because terrible things can still happen today to your team. There are plenty of ball games. There's 6. Not a big Friday. It's kind of a smallish by most accounts, but it's a medium day overall. Pretty big Saturday. That's kind of the big card the rest of the way. But the reason you want to hold on to your moves right now is that, yes, a lot of teams go 2 times the rest of this week in whatever configuration, today, tomorrow, today, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, etc. Because there are a lot of opportunities to get 2 games left, and frankly, not that many teams that only have 1. I feel like it's maybe split 2/3 have 2 games left, and like 1/3 only has 1 game left. The teams that only have 1 game left, typically, it's not just Sunday. In fact, I don't know that there's any team with 1 game left this week where the only one is on Sunday. Yeah, none. You have Toronto that plays today and then doesn't go over the weekend. So that's a team where you would use your move, very obviously, tomorrow to get off any fringy Raptors, which unfortunately right now is someone like a Gary Harris or Gary Trent. And you can turn that goose egg Saturday, Sunday into 2 games. But outside of Toronto and Minnesota, they go tonight and then they're off the rest of the week where you can use your roster move on Saturday. If you have someone on your team that only has 1 game left this week that's not on one of those 2 teams, so Boston, Chicago, Dallas, Detroit, Golden State, Houston, Indiana, the Clippers, the Grizzlies, there are plenty of them. There are others. I don't need to go through all of them here on the podcast. Just look it up. Those teams that all play on Saturday allow you to use your last roster move this week on Sunday. But let's just very quickly, since we don't have a podcast over the weekend, we're not going to be doing a show tomorrow or Sunday. I want to try to set this up as don't use your move today unless you're replacing an injured guy, in which case just pick up somebody that has 2 games the rest of this weekend. Or if you want to look a little bit farther down the line, you can do that. The teams that have 3 games in 4 nights, so if you wanted to go through to Monday, are Atlanta and Miami, which, I mean, those are teams we've been talking about all week long anyway. So you probably have some of those dudes on your team and you can just kind of leave them there. If you wanted to go a little bit farther and go 4 games in 6 nights, Cleveland, the Lakers, still Miami, and the San Antonio Spurs have 4 games in 6 nights. So that's something you could do today if someone on your team got hurt. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. If there's no one on your team hurt today, play today out. Tomorrow, if you have someone on Minnesota or Toronto that's not inside the top 80 pretty much, and your league does continue on beyond this. I mean, if you have someone on Minnesota or Toronto and your league is over at the end of this week, then obviously you can drop anyone on those teams, including, the best damn players that are in fantasy sports. Doesn't matter. But we're talking about leagues that continue beyond. So fringy players in Minnesota would be like a Slow-Mo is fringy if you had been streaming someone like a Naz Reid at any point. Pretty much anyone on the Wolves, Conley's in there, besides Anthony Edwards and probably besides Rudy Gobert, you could move on from because they don't have any games over the weekend. They play 1 game over the next 4 days, and their schedule actually does get a little bit better towards the middle end of next week. But leading up to that point, you can get so many more games, it kind of doesn't matter. Minnesota and Toronto, if you have fringy players on those 2 teams, tomorrow, use a move to get a Pelican, a New York Knick, an Oklahoma City Thunder, a Charlotte Hornet, although I know it seems insane because they have a 2-game week next week, but their first game is on a Tuesday. These are the teams that go back-to-back over the weekend and give you the option to stretch it into Tuesday. It's actually all of them. Every team, interestingly, every team that goes back-to-back Saturday, Sunday plays again on Tuesday. So you have these really nice options if you have a player on your team that doesn't have a game on Saturday or Sunday. So the beauty of that is, if you're like, well, Minnesota has a game on Monday. Yes, that's true. You'd be able to start your week a little bit better. But either way, over 4 days, starting tomorrow, by picking up what are the teams I talked about? Charlotte, New Orleans, New York, Oklahoma City. Over 4 games, over 4 days, I should say, you get a 2-game roster bump. Not just on the back-to-back. You could stretch it into 4 days. You get the 2-game roster bump. Beyond that, you're likely moving on for any team in that list besides Oklahoma City, because over 6 days, they have 4 games starting tomorrow, where Minnesota has 2, and Toronto also has... Toronto's even worse, so they're not even in the discussion. Minnesota has 2 games by Wednesday of next week, by Thursday of next week. Oklahoma City also has 2 games by Thursday of next week. And then you'll have to abandon ship after 6 days. But there are options starting tomorrow that you could stretch into a 6-day long stream. That's Saturday. If you have a player, if you still haven't used your last roster move of the week and Sunday comes around, it's use it or lose it mode. At that point, you're likely taking someone on your team that does not play on Sunday and also has probably not a great start to their schedule next week. And you're replacing them with someone that not only does play on Sunday, but has a good schedule through hopefully the entirety of next week. Or you could just go with the sort of more medium length one. And the teams that fall into that category are the Cleveland Cavaliers, because they go 4 games in 6 days starting on Sunday. The Denver Nuggets have 5 games over 8 days starting on Sunday, which isn't great, but it's also not terrible. The Lakers are actually both of those things. They have 3 games in 4 nights starting on Sunday, 4 in 6, and 5 in 8 starting on Sunday. Is that it? No, San Antonio also has a really good schedule. They also go 3 in 4, 4 in 6, and 5 in 8 starting on Sunday. So again, if you have a roster move on Sunday, those are the teams you'd want to pivot into. What are the teams you'd want to pivot away from starting on Sunday? The Clippers, they're in just a god-awful scheduling stretch right now where they played Memphis on the 5th. That was last Sunday. And then they have 2 total games over 9 days since then, with one of them coming tomorrow. They had 2 days off after that game on Sunday, 2 days off after the game this week on Wednesday, 3 days off after the game tomorrow against the Knicks. They play the Warriors, and then they have 2 games off again after that. So the Clippers barely play at all over this stretch. 3 games over the span of 12 days for the Clips. That's a team you'd want to be moving on from, although you probably have already done it. Chicago, another team that's in the midst of a really, really bad scheduling stretch after Saturday, but also before that this week. So again, that's another team who probably had already moved on from. Atlanta, interestingly, they do have a game on Monday, so you could hold them through to that. But after Monday, they have 3 days off, so that's a situation you could potentially move on from. On Sunday as well. And then, again, looking at other teams that, Orlando, after Saturday, they have 2 days off, although they do have a slightly better schedule on next week starting on Tuesday. Toronto, we've talked about a bunch as a team you should have moved on from on Saturday. And then the Jazz, they do play on Monday, but that's part of a 2-game week, so they actually have 4 days off after that game on Monday as well. So if you wanted to get out from the Jazz this week, save a move that you were going to have to use on Tuesday next week, that's the other spot where you could kind of drop that into the bucket. Phew! That is a weekend-long streaming lightning round for the ages. Hopefully that was of some use to you guys as we continue to roll through this broadcast. If my live viewers, if you guys have any questions about the long stream stuff over the weekend, please make sure to throw that into the chat. And we are going to now pivot into the questions coming from the chat room. And you know what? I'm going to leave that actually in the recorded show today, just so people can kind of get a taste of what's how this stuff works. Scrolling up to the top of the chat, I will make sure to read things in full because I know this is going out on the recorded side as well. Let's see. I had to skip over a few with Brew at the beginning. All right. Can we trust Quentin Grimes to get threes on the back-to-back coming up? I'd be dropping slow-mo after tonight. I am very close in threes. I mean, I guess it sort of depends on how many threes you're looking for in that back-to-back. The Thunder might be a direction that I would look for the weekend back-to-back as opposed to Quentin Grimes. I know that from a minute standpoint, he is probably the most likely to play minutes, but if there's someone like, say, I don't know, like an Isaiah Joe that's floating around on the waiver wire, he would be a really good weekend three-pointer stream. He's probably rostered if you didn't put his name out there. Grimes averages about 2 3-pointers a game, but a lot of that came as a full-time starter. I would expect him to fall more in the 1.5. So if you're streaming him for the weekend back-to-back, I would assume you get 2 to 3 threes out of Quentin Grimes, and anything above that would be gravy. They play the Clippers and the Lakers Saturday, Sunday. Lakers actually have been playing really good defense lately. So I think I would bank on 3 threes and then go from there. I have one move left this week. I need mostly rebounds and blocks. Would you drop Mark Williams to get Nick Richards before someone scoops him, or wait and use the last ad on Sunday to gain a game? Well, here's the thing. If Mark Williams isn't playing, you can actually gain 2 games by making that move. And that's what we talked about. The only time you're using a roster move today is if you're replacing someone who's injured. Charlotte has the weekend back-to-back, so I guess that would even be tomorrow. I would wait until tomorrow, find out if Mark Williams is playing, and then make your adjustment from there. That's got to be the way. Next one on the board here is, sorry, I'm scrolling through to make sure I don't redo questions that we put up earlier. Does Troy Brown get negatively impacted from D'Angelo Russell returning? Lakers need Brown's defense. I'm going to say no, but at the same time, he's on a heater. So you kind of have to weigh this all out together. Troy Brown's been really hot from three-point land. He probably loses playing time if he cools off from 3. And then you'd see more Malik Beasley if he gets hot. So I don't think it's D'Lo specifically. I think a lot of it is Troy Brown plays defense and he's been hitting shots lately, so he kind of has to be in there. But if one of those 2 things leaves, then the Lakers have to make the calculation of, do we need the defense more? Do we need the offense more? And that'll be a game-to-game thing. Should I add slow-mo, DiVincenzo, Josh Okogie, a back-to-back to begin the week? Monk, 4 games by Saturday, or Jabari Smith for week 21? It's probably Okogie with Kevin Durant out for a bit. You could have Okogie for actually the first 4 days of next week because he goes 3 days and 4 nights to start week 21 before the Phoenix's schedule lightens back up again. With Golden State, I think we could see Andrew Wiggins resurface at some point. They have a better schedule towards the middle and late part of next week. And Minnesota, the same schedule as Golden State next week. So they're a little bit better later on. With Okogie, you get an extra game by Thursday of next week. And then you could pivot in the direction of other clubs after that. Not a question, just pouring one out for all of the KD owners out there. Yeah, I mean, I'm really hurt right now because if Kevin Durant would have not, I mean, I in 30 deep, which is a huge pride thing. It's 30 analysts and like longtime legendary ones, the longest tenured analysts in fantasy sports in this league. And I very much believe that I would have won this league if Kevin Durant came back healthy. I'm winning this week without Kevin Durant. My team is just an absolute juggernaut, and I don't know how I get past. It's going to be a dogfight for me to win this week, which is because it's 30 teams, 12 make the playoffs, and the first 4 have been eliminated. So we're in final 8, which is the conference semis. The conference finals next week. I don't know how I get past that without Kevin Durant. If I had him, I think I'd win the league and crushing. Thoughts on Brandon Ingram's injury? Why is this not working? Is my internet glitching out right now is the question. The answer is probably. Come on, internet. Come on back to me. There we go. None of my clicks are working right now. I don't know why that's happening. No news is coming out. Could he be back next week? I mean, he could be back this week, given we don't have any news. I believe he's questionable for the moment. So let's hope it's just not that terrible. And the Pelicans badly need to win ball games. So they're going to push him here more than they would have in the middle of the year. 9-cat roto games cap. Should I drop Mark Williams to pick up Herb Jones? Looking for rebounds and free throw percent. I'm going to say yes, because I think Mark Williams does miss a tiny bit of time. And Herb's been good for a while. I guess if Ingram is healthy and Williams is healthy, then I probably would prefer Mark, but I just feel like at least one of those two things is not going to be the case. What if you are over full for March 11th? Yeah, tomorrow's a 10-gamer. Do you drop guys from March 11th to stream for the 10th and the 12th to get 2 quality day streams, or hold all 3 moves for Sunday to see stats needed? I would make the move. Because you can add multiple games played that way. Make the move. Big Dog in the house. That's right. Richard is rooting for the Niners. Brew roots for the Niners too. David says, Roto's better than head-to-head. I'm sick of load management and random injuries. You and me both, buddy. Would you drop Mark Williams for Nick Rich? Oh, we did this one. Yes, by the way. Which 2 would you pick to stream for the next 2 weeks of your playoffs? Jeremy Sohan, Charles Bassey, Dante DiVincenzo, and Jalen Durant. Next 2 weeks. Good Lord, I don't think I've looked that far ahead. Let's see here. The Spurs, they have a 4-gamer and another 4-gamer. So that's 2 of the names up there are Spurs. Sohan probably going to rest their back-to-backs. So I would think that he maybe only plays in 6 of their 8 games. Bassey probably plays in all 8. Dante DiVincenzo is, I think the Warriors, don't the Warriors have a 3-gamer one of those 2 weeks, or is it 4 for both? Yeah, they go 3 and then 4, and then Jalen Durant goes 4 and 4. But does he sit the back-to-back? I think probably. So I probably go Charles Bassey, believe it or not, because I think he probably plays in all 8 of their games. And then DiVincenzo 7, is that better than Durant and Sohan going 6? It really depends on Andrew Wiggins coming back. We have not heard anything about Wiggins coming back, so I'll go DiVincenzo and Bassey in that list for head-to-head. Would you drop Mark Williams for Xavier Tillman and Roto? Yeah, I think I would. There just sort of isn't another option in Memphis right now, so I'll go Tillman. Devin Vassell moving forward. So to me, he's good enough where 6 games over the next 2 weeks is actually enough. So he's an add and a hold. His per game ability puts him above the threshold. Now, if you get down to like a 2-game week or a 3-gamer with a back-to-back or something like that, do the Spurs have that? I'll check. They don't. All of their back-to-backs come in 4-game weeks. So Vassell is an add and a hold. WTF is Wembanyama. That's hilarious. By the way, it just started pouring here, which is probably why my internet's going crazy. Victor Wembanyama is the likely first pick in next year's reality draft. Josh Okogie or Harrison Barnes to start next week, as they both have 3 out of 4 Monday through Thursday. I'll go Okogie there. Barnes is just not fun. Does it look bad for Jalen Brunson? I need him healthy for this playoff run. Honestly, I did not watch that game live yesterday, but he re-aggravated an existing injury. The Knicks have a Lakers-Clippers back-to-back, and then they have a 2-game week. I would be concerned that he doesn't play until the week after that, or at least maybe the end of next week. That game, they host Denver when they get back home. I'd be worried Jalen Brunson misses the rest of the Knicks road trip, because the Knicks are in pretty good standing right now. They're kind of in their own little pocket in the Eastern Conference, where they're 3 games back of the Cavs. They're a game up on the Nets, so they could flip 5-6, but they're a solid 3.5 games up on the play-in. And I think they know at this point that they need to get Brunson fully healthy, or their playoffs are going to end. Post-haste. They're not very good without Jalen Brunson, is what I'm saying, if that wasn't entirely clear. All right, what do we got next on the question board? I have KD, Cam, Holiday, M. Will, and been dominating my 14-teamer. All of them got injured, missed games this week. I now hate 9-cat because I'm losing first round. It's not that you hate 9-cat, buddy. It's that you hate head-to-head playoff leagues. I've been 1 or 2 all year. So your league, you probably need to have first and second place payouts during the regular season, in addition to the bye week, because the playoffs are too crazy. Or you just switch to Roto. Just come on over. Hey, Dan and Brew, thoughts on Kyle Lowry and Robert Williams rest of season head-to-head? I would not trust Kyle Lowry as far as I can chuck him. Time Lord, he'll be back and he'll play in non-back-to-backs, I would assume. He's on their road trip, but what the hell does that mean? Their road trip goes all the way through the 21st of March. It was like, well, that gives us basically a 2-week window where he could show back up. Once he does, I would assume he plays decent. I think the internet continues to glitch out. I'm very sorry, folks. This is the power of rain in Los Angeles. Who should I target for threes, points, and steals in week 21? Gee, I'm sorry, dude. That's way too hard of a question. There are way too many players out there. Look for someone who has a 4-game week that isn't going to sit back-to-backs and just start there and just start sorting your free agents accordingly. John Collins is on my waivers. He's tempting to pick up. Should I for rest of season? 12-team points league. No. He's more of a streaming level guy right now, and the Hawks, after today and tomorrow, go into a bad scheduling stretch. If you wanted to pick him up today through Monday, that would be fine, but be ready to get off of Collins and any other fringy Hawks on Tuesday, because then they don't play for 3 days. Not good for head-to-head. Neil says IL plus for the win. Yeah, IL plus is a really big deal because then you don't have to worry for the full injured list tag. But most Yahoo head-to-head leagues don't have it. Their public ones don't, and I don't think either of the ones that I'm in do, although I might change that. I'm a commissioner of one of those two for next year because, like right now for me, Jordan Clarkson in my 11 category league, I had to drop him. Because he's like playing once out of every 3 games, so he never got an injured tag, and he's just constantly out. Darius Garland, game time call. Mark Williams, game time call. Spencer Dinwiddie, game time call. Brandon Ingram, game time call. Bojan Bogdanovic was a game time call. Jordan Clarkson was a game time call. How many names did I just read off? 6? I have 6 names, and only one of those guys got the IL tag. So to the person on Twitter who was like, put him on IL. If you have depth, you're fine. There are literally more players on my team that are game time calls and are missing games actively than moves I have in a week to drop them all. And I've already dropped a couple. Who would you add first, Malik Monk or Josh Okogie for week 21? I like Okogie, better 9-cat player, but if you're targeting points and threes in particular, that's where you would lean Monk. The nice thing about Okogie is that his back-to-back is Monday, Tuesday, where for Monk, the back-to-back is Wednesday, Thursday. So you could even switch it up part way if you really wanted to. Thoughts on Jabari Smith's recent play? Is he must roster? No, I don't think he's must roster. I mean, there's a hope that maybe he's starting to turn a little bit of a corner. If you've held him the entire year, you keep holding. If he's on a waiver wire, you certainly give a strong look at him. Houston plays every other day, starting basically last Sunday until this next Sunday. They start a stretch where they go 3-4. So there's a couple spots in there where you could pick up a rocket towards the end of next week. But, other than that, I don't think that I would. Who would you add for defensive stats next 2 matches? Josh Richardson or Nick Richards? Nick Richards. Corey Joseph rest of season head-to-head? Ugh. Yeah, I mean, he's a possible play. Not rest of season, but Detroit does go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday to start next week. So you could probably get like a pretty competent 70-plus minutes out of him over those 3 games, maybe more. But then no way, because after that, Detroit plays 3 games over 10 days. And that is an unacceptably low number of games for someone who is Corey Joseph. Peter asks, Garland, a game time call. I have 1 ad left. Should I use it on KCP if Garland is ruled out? Oh, man. No. I don't think you can punt on Garland because he'll probably play on Sunday. So you'd only be gaining 1 game here. Now, if Garland misses Sunday also, then you probably do it. But I don't think that I would punt on him. He's too good. He's too high up the board. What team should we be looking to long stream for 21? Well, we did that during our long stream discussion, didn't we? First and second place pre-playoff payouts are a great addition to any league. Yeah, I think you kind of have to do that now. It also, as I said with Brew, it discourages punting because you have to get into those top 2 seeds, you need to be better at more categories or win every single week, I guess. Matisse Thybulle, just asking. Just asking. He's a schedule play right now. Portland doesn't have a great schedule here coming up. If you wanted to play him over the weekend here, like if you had an injured player, you could pick him up today, Sunday. Or he could be a Sunday grab, but not really somebody I'm targeting right now. Want to thank you for answering my questions, and I love the channel. Thanks, man. Yeah, everybody drop a like and subscription on this thing. Even the recorded folks get to listen to this part today. Thank you to everybody that continues to hit thumbs up and subscribe to our blossoming YouTube page. I'm facing Tyrese Halliburton and Anthony Davis next week. I'm low-key super scared. Doesn't sound like it's low-key. I think it's regular key. Do you think they'll keep this production up? Halliburton and AD? Yes, I do. That's trouble. That team is a good team. And well-rounded, too. I would say try to attack categories where they're left vulnerable, but that combination leaves them vulnerable in, like, points and threes, and that's kind of it. Last couple chances here to get questions in the chat room, everybody. I can see a few new folks just joined us on YouTube, so please like and subscribe and throw some questions in the chat because we are approaching the end of the chat, and at that point, I'm going to go do something else. For next week, would you drop Rozier for a guy like Trey Jones, Tim Hardaway Jr., or Victor Oladipo? Not Trey Jones, because I think he only plays 3 of their games next week. Dallas has a 3-game week, so no, I'm not dropping Rozier for a 3-game Tim Hardaway stream either. Who was the last name? Victor Oladipo. They do have 4 games, but it's backloaded a little bit. So my answer is no, actually, to all 3 of those. What you could do if you really wanted to, because the schedule for Charlotte is terrible, that extends all the way into the middle of the following week. If you were going to look at like an Oladipo for the whole week, you do get a 2-game bump there. Who are the other players we just talked about? How did I forget already? I got to go back over. Tim Hardaway, Dallas. There are 3 games for the entire week, but then it does get a little bit better the one after that. And then with the Spurs, with Trey Jones missing back-to-backs, I don't think that I would do it. I think Rozier, to me, is a guy that's probably going to be good enough in head-to-head where you try to hold him through this kind of tough stretch. But he and Oubre are probably the only Hornets I hold on to through their 2-game week. Other guys, you move on and you probably let it stretch longer. Do you think Kevin Durant plays again this season? Yeah, I think he plays a game the very last week. Joe Ingles or Josh Okogie next week. I'll go Okogie. I think the Bucks are fully healthy by next week, and we saw Okogie was pretty good, actually, when KD was out. So that's Okogie to me. And believe it or not, that actually gets us to the end of the questions in the chat room. We lightning round our way through. Big thank you to Aaron Brewski for jumping on today. Please like and subscribe again. If you're listening over on the recorded side, please drop a 5-star review on the podcast if you guys have been enjoying what we're doing over here at Sports Ethos. Follow me on Twitter at Dan Besbris. Follow Aaron on Twitter at Aaron Brewski. Go get a fantasy pass for 1 month. It's only $5.99 at sportsethos.com. Click on the premium tab, choose Get Premium. What am I forgetting? I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Whatever's going on, I'll try to get it out on social media to the best of my ability. Again, that is at Dan Besbris, trying to do a lot of work over there on Twitter. Thank you again to everybody that has joined us for all of these shows, so well-trafficked these days. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We will lightning round it a little bit on Monday, and then we'll, of course, look at a long streaming as well. John's getting a sandwich for lunch. We'll do the same. So long for now, everybody.